Hi everyone, my name is Whitney Bausman and I am the author of Partly Sunny, an honest and humorous look at the first weeks of bringing home a newborn. If this is your first time here, welcome, and my hope is that you will go back in our Partly Sunny playlist and start with us from the beginning. This week we are going to dive right back in where we left off last time, and that is with chapter 2. Today's video is all about honesty and transparency when it comes to all of the things that happen to your body when you have a baby. So get comfortable, and here we go. Chapter 2, Bodily Wreckage. Pregnant, there's a pretty good chance that I'm about ready to scare you again. Hang in there with me. I promise to bring some redemption to this chapter before it concludes. Let's all uncross our legs, put our chins up, and take a deep breath. You are stronger than you know. Things I learned in childbirth class, the abridged version. 1, it's going to hurt. 2, there are options to help lessen the hurt. Things I didn't learn in childbirth class. Your lady bits may swell to a degree that an isolated photograph of said region shown to a stranger without context would result in a response of, "What exactly am I looking at?" You will out Hansel and Gretel even the most experienced of trailblazers. Breadcrumbs? Who needs those? You'll be leaving behind a trail of drips composed of a unique combination of bodily fluids every time you walk anywhere wearing a hospital gown. Getting in and out of bed initially, let alone repositioning yourself, will hurt. Substantially. Imagine getting sucker punched down yonder repeatedly for like 45 minutes. All kidding aside, childbirth classes are certainly helpful and do give you lots of important, good to know ahead of time things to ponder. You'll laugh, but one of the takeaways I appreciated most from my own facilitator was a hands-on encounter with the maternity maxi pads used at the hospital in which I planned to deliver. This probably doesn't seem like something one should appreciate or even remember, but let me just say that this helped remove a tiny bit of the shock factor from an encounter that was, at that point, a mystery to me. Seeing and holding a pad that was practically the size of a travel pillow gave me a little dose in the reality of the mess that was to come. Along with many other wisps of wisdom and words of encouragement, childbirth classes provided a solid base of knowledge for my husband and I on which to start our next chapter. There are, however, just some things that you can't fathom about the experience until you've lived it. For starters, saying that childbirth hurts is a little bit like saying ice is cool. Nope. Ice is freezing, actually. Childbirth is a process that will require more than all of your mental, physical, and emotional strength. Want some transparency? When I was pregnant with Clark, I was all about portraying a picture-perfect pregnancy. I gained something like a measly 15 pounds from start to finish and ran almost every single day of that pregnancy, including the day that Clark was born. Before you gag, rest assured that my ego took a huge hit the second time around. I gained more than 50 pounds when I was pregnant with Annie and experienced contractions anytime I even thought about going for a run. But with Clark, I decided early on that I was going to try my darndest to labor without medication, and while yes, some of that decision was grounded in good mom intentions, like I didn't want my child being exposed to drugs that weren't absolutely necessary, I'm going to be frank yet again and tell you that I wanted the drug-free badge of accomplishment. The early stages of labor were awesome for me with Clark because I was on my feet for an entire day and distracted myself from the work my body was doing. While my colleagues were freaking out and pushing me to leave, I felt like I was in control and tarried on. I left work around 3:30 p.m. after phoning Jonathan and met him at home shortly thereafter. While he was antsy and excited, I was very weirdly chill at this point and probably experiencing a bit of denial. When he asked, "Should we head into the hospital?" my response was, "Nah, I think I want to take a hot shower first." I headed up the stairs and added a request. "Oh, and can you maybe make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" Although he looked concerned, Jonathan obliged with my plan, and off to the shower I went. My husband is, and has always been, a rule follower to a T. As a child, if he was given a chore to complete, it was done immediately. His brother, on the other hand, not so much, which drove Jonathan absolutely crazy. When I'm in the kitchen, my philosophy is that a recipe serves as a guide. It is merely a suggestion, and I adapt, always. When Jonathan is in the kitchen, he depends on a recipe like it's the instruction manual of an airliner he's been forced to commandeer after the pilot suddenly keeled over of a heart attack. He's cautious and thorough and has always been one to do what is right in any given situation. All things I love about him. Well, there was one rule that we were given in childbirth class, and that was the rule of 5-1-1. When I was experiencing contractions at 5 or less minutes apart, lasting 1 minute for at least 1 hour, I was supposed to head into the hospital. After my nice long shower and my couldn't have been better PB&J, our conversation went like this. And be forewarned that our pet names for each other are super original. They're boy and girl. So how far apart are your contractions? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, one is starting now. And time. Getting another. Girl, that was like 2.5 minutes. We need to call the doctor and head in. Boy, I'm fine. They don't even hurt yet. Well, God has a sense of humor because right around that time, my contractions started to hurt. We arrived at the hospital shortly before 6 p.m., just shy of 6 centimeters dilated, and Clark arrived on the scene about 3.5 hours later. It wasn't like I nearly delivered him in the car or anything, but for a first child, my labor and delivery was brisk as compared to many. If it wasn't for this briskness, let it be known that I, Miss Fit, Miss I'm not taking no drugs, would have been all sorts of doped up. I handled labor with Clark like a champ until I got to the dreaded transition phase, as they call it. This is the final stage of dilation right before pushing, in which contractions seem endless, especially when you're a first-time mom and have no idea what to expect. It was at this time that I cried uncle and told Jonathan that I needed him to get me some drugs. Jan, the super experienced and best midwife who happened to be caring for me, knew that I wanted to deliver Clark au naturel, but she wasn't unsympathetic to my agony. She came into my room, saw me spiraling out of control, and said to me, "You can do this, and I know you want to do this, but I'll call anesthesia for you." She made the call, and then told me she was going to check my progress again to see where things stood. Feeling completely defeated and like I had nothing left to give, Jan looked at me with a new brightness in her eyes and said, "Honey, you're ready to go. Your pain relief is going to be pushing." I'm not quite sure what escaped my lips at this moment, but let me just tell you that I wasn't looking forward to the pain relief of pushing. Say what? I'm hurting beyond hurting. I'm about ready to drop a bowling ball from my bits. And you're telling me the only drug you've got for me is pushing? As if all of the stars aligned and the light was changing from red to green, my body then did the weirdest thing ever. It involuntarily started pushing. Imagine that you've just chugged a bottle of laxative and you're about ready to bomb the porcelain sea, whether you make it to a toilet or not. Yeah, it was a tad like that. How on earth pushing a 5 to 10 pound infant out of a 10 centimeter canal could be considered pain relief is beyond me. But guess what? It was true. I put every ounce of my energy into pushing for almost 45 minutes in order to deliver Clark. While it certainly hurt, it was the first time in the laboring process where I felt like my pain was meaningful and pointed. There was light at the end of the tunnel, and pushing was in all truth more exhausting than it was agonizing. Before we had Clark, Jonathan's sweet Grandma Dean once said this to me: "Wait until you hold that precious baby in your arms. All of the pain of delivery will just go away." True, Grandma, but only because of your careful phrasing. Yes, absolutely yes. My pain was gone the minute that I held Clark in my arms. Did I forget the pain, however? No, ma'am. I remember my best friends Kelly and Megan visiting me in the hospital the day after Clark's arrival and asking me how painful it really was. Unlike my hidden yuck feelings that we already discussed, I was honest with this one from day one. I think my response was something like, "Oh my gosh, it was bad." Encouraging, right? When I found out that I was pregnant the second time, I won't lie, I was more scared of delivery because I did know what to expect. Because I had given Clark a medication-free delivery, I really wanted to attempt that for his sister, and I was nervous. I felt especially driven to deliver Annie without drugs and give her at least one thing to be proud of me for during the time I carried her, because I basically did everything else wrong. I exercised zero, I ate a ton of crap, forgot to take my prenatal vitamins like 50% of the time, and just didn't follow the rules the second time around like I had the first. Lunch meat? Let me at it. Sorry, Annie girl. Regardless of the why, I knew that I wanted to attempt a med-free delivery again, so I made it a point to do a little preparation in the form of research and prayer. For countless days, I prayed that God would give me the physical strength and mental clarity I would need to go where I really didn't want to go again. Somewhere along the line, I discovered a 3-word phrase that, although I initially hated, I would grow to love and rely upon. It was this: embrace your contractions. Simple in theory, yes, but quite the opposite in reality. Let's be honest, had Jonathan attempted a pep talk during my labor with Clark by saying, "Come on girl, embrace your contractions," I probably would have told him where to shove it. Pain is painful and anything but welcome. When the body experiences pain, the natural tendency is to fight the discomfort and find relief, not exactly a warm and inviting embrace. When a woman fights her contractions, as I did with Clark, their efficiency is lessened to a degree. And while the process of labor certainly continues, it isn't as fluid as it could be. Not easy to do, mommies to be. But if you need one thing to hold on to when you want nothing more than for your baby to just get here already, here it is. Let your body do what it needs to do. As much as you can, which will at times feel impossible, relax. Breathe. You've got this. Your body was created to do this hard work. While it was anything but easy, laboring with Annie was easier than it had been with Clark because of my determination not to fight and resist the pain. The process mirrored that of Clark's delivery almost identically, except that I owned my contractions. When a contraction would start, I made it a point to relax every muscle in my body. I relaxed my face, my hands, my breathing, my everything. And I focused on the pain for the right reasons. I wasn't begging for it to leave. I was willing for it to be useful. Until basically the transition phase, I was happy, in control, and strangely talkative. When the transition phase came, that familiar hurt definitely returned. But I wasn't afraid of it. I allowed my body to do its thing. And on top of the drug-free badge of accomplishment, I vowed to receive the "didn't even ask for them this time around" badge. And I did it. As the pain peaked, and I knew that I would soon get to experience the welcomed relief of pushing, my body again started doing it all on its own. The midwife entered the room, donning her gloves in response to my husband's SOS call, and jets of amniotic fluid literally shot out of me, hitting Jonathan and anyone else within a 3-foot radius of my nethers. 1.5 big old pushes later, and there was my sweet girl, Annie. Expecting? First of all, you can do it. Second, it's totally okay if you don't want to do it, either from the get-go or because the process becomes harder than you anticipated. You do you, and don't let anyone make you feel any less worthy whether you choose to medicate or go without. Your body is about ready to do the craziest, hardest, most amazing thing. Nothing can or should take away from that. Just like we all know bringing home a baby is hard, we all know that delivering a baby is going to hurt. Regardless of how a baby makes the leap from womb to world, and regardless of what medications are or are not used, even first-time parents anticipate a certain level of discomfort both during and after delivery. What I certainly didn't expect, however, was just how much labor and delivery would hurt, along with a bunch of simply weird realities regarding the aftermath of the entire experience. First, for those blessed with uncomplicated, typical deliveries like me, it's pretty weird how quickly things just normalize. Without an epidural, there are next to no restrictions in movement during delivery or recovery. If you're medically stable and feeling up to it, you can essentially be on your feet, going to the bathroom, showering, and attempting to beautify your wrecked self moments after giving birth. Even with an epidural or C-section, we're talking mere hours until a new mom is expected to be up and moving around independently. It may be natural, but giving birth is still traumatic as heck to a woman's body. It's all kinds of crazy that our bodies do what they do during the delivery process and are then expected to carry on like nothing happened. Have you ever seen one of those stereotypical wildlife shows? After the zebra gives birth, she just lays around while her cohorts acknowledge the stress she's endured, bring her the best of the best whatever zebras eat, and allow her to rest while they care for the whatever zebra babies are called, right? No. Mama Z drops said baby in the dirt while munching on dinner, cleans the yuck off of her newborn with her own mouth, and then moves on to whatever zebras do all day while baby Z follows along. The reality of having a baby to care for is that suddenly there is no time for selfishness. Here's some honesty again, guys. After you've done the hard work of labor, you're going to want to be a little selfish. You're going to want that nap in the worst way. You're going to want to have a few minutes to laze in your filth without concern for the 700 visitors lining up outside your door. When they start making their way in, though, you're probably even going to want just a couple of them to tell you how amazing of a job you just did. The nurses who cared for me during labor and delivery were all wonderful people whom I trusted myself and my children to completely. For this reason, please don't take what I am about ready to say as a dig at any of them in any way. Because I had such run-of-the-mill experiences, I was basically ignored unless I sought out attention for the duration of the process. My medical team was gracious enough to give me the space to labor as I wanted, and gracious enough to give Jonathan and I space to figure out how to keep our new little peanuts thriving once they were born. When my nurses did have to pop in for their infrequent brief assessments, though, well, life totally sucked for a few short minutes. For those of you who have yet to experience childbirth, here are two dreaded words for you: uterus checks. After delivery, it's essential that a woman's uterus remain firm and contracted, not only so that the womb can get back into shape, but to prevent bleeding. To ensure that this is happening, postpartum nurses have the responsibility of performing occasional checks on the uterus, which involve rather indelicately jamming their fingers into a woman's already tender belly flesh in order to intentionally cause contractions in a super sore organ that has already been through the ringer. Very necessary, but very uncomfortable too. If you're lucky enough to have boring deliveries like me and only see your nurses a couple of times during your hospital stay, believe me when I say your heart will skip a beat in a bad way anytime you hear someone medical tell you that they need to check you out below the belly button. Thankfully, these cringeworthy check-ins are few, and it'll seem just plain weird how very little medical attention you receive considering what your body has just been through. Want to know what else is weird? The mess. Remember those travel pillow-sized maxi pads? Oh yes, girl, you're going to need them. In the beginning, you're going to need one like every hour. Your bits will be so swollen, you'll be all kinds of sore, and you'll be trying to master the art of comfort while sitting delicately on monster-sized cold packs. Going to the bathroom without making a complete mess of the floor, the toilet, or your underwear for at least the first 24 hours will be impossible. There are literally stages of drainage that a woman goes through after delivering a baby. It's like the heaviest, longest, grossest period of your entire life. Here's a quote that made me laugh out loud and nod my head like, yep, all at the same time after having experienced this messy ride twice now. It comes from Cleveland Clinic and addresses the drainage after birth, which is called lochia. Lochia for the first 3 days after delivery is dark red in color. A few small blood clots, no larger than a plum, are normal. I don't know what kind of plums you all are eating, but I'm not sure that I'd exactly consider a plum small, especially when we are talking about their size in comparison to a blood clot being passed from one's body and considered to be normal. I mean, if we're comparing them to watermelons, sure, I guess perhaps a plum is small. Anyway, welcome to all kinds of new normals. While the degree of the overall gross factor following childbirth caught me by surprise and provided for many humorous memories today, my favorite post-delivery what the what moment involves yet another simply weird reality. Things will be different down south. If you haven't heard it already, Mommies in the Making, you'll hear it 30 times in the hospital prior to discharge. Be sure not to insert anything into the vagina for at least 6 weeks following delivery and until cleared to do so by a medical provider. Alas, the V word makes its debut. Remember my husband, the rule follower? This was not going to be challenged. Easy enough, right? Well, as I healed at home during the first several weeks following Clark's birth, I couldn't help noticing that stuff just felt different. Things were bulgy, I felt some tightness, but I just chalked it up to the normal process of recovery. One day, however, my curiosity got the better of me. The discharging doctor may have told me not to insert anything down there, but she never told me I couldn't look. While Clark napped, I placed a mirror on my bathroom floor, hunkered over the thing, and then ran to call Jonathan at work. Boy, something is not right. You need to come home over lunch. What? Are you okay? Is Clark okay? Yeah, we're fine, but something is not right with my lady parts. What do you mean? There's something there. There's something there that wasn't there before. Okay? Does it hurt? Should I come home now? No, it's fine. Just come home over lunch. I just don't feel like it's supposed to look like this. What a call to receive at work, and what a lunchtime request. My sweet, concerned husband showed up not long after this conversation. He was flustered for sure, and uncertain of what he may find, seeing as how my description of what was going on wasn't exactly thorough or scientific. Upon further inspection, without breaking the cardinal rule of insertion, the hubs described to me that there was a band of skin literally connected to both sides of my girly tunnel. TMI, I know, but he could literally hook his finger around the thing and pull. It was substantial and wasn't going anywhere. Totally gross. I promptly called the OBGYN office, and comically, I was chided like a toddler. Sass Pants receptionist. You do know that you aren't supposed to insert anything into your vagina for a full 6 weeks after delivery, correct? Me. Yes, I do. I didn't insert anything. I looked. And you're sure this wasn't there before? Yes. I'm not sure how a rubber band connecting the walls of my vagina would still be intact after giving birth. Well, as long as it isn't painful, you already have your 6-week visit scheduled in a few weeks' time. The midwife will take a look then. Okay. As long as you aren't concerned, that's fine with me. And remember, make sure you don't insert anything into your vagina before that appointment. Roger, Chief. This was what I wanted to say anyway. What I actually said was something more like, yep, I know. What we came to learn at that appointment was that I had an adhesion, tissue which had grown in response to the way that I was sutured after delivery. It was totally normal and totally non-concerning, but the midwife wanted to cut it down, as was her description, right there and then without medication. I know that I had just delivered a child sans drugs, but let me tell you that after you've experienced significant pain in the south of France, you will do anything to avoid recurrence without time to prepare yourself and get in the zone. Thankfully, Jonathan came along for that appointment and convinced the midwife to jack me up with a numbing agent before she came at me with a scalpel. Thank you, love. Just another reason why you're my favorite. I think it's pretty safe to say that labor, delivery, and recovery is a beyond challenging and super weird process. It'll leave your body completely wrecked and exhausted, a dripping mess, and forever different below the belt. I know, I'm just making it all sound awful again, especially to the pregnant readers out there. But we have to remember the whole picture. Thankfully, there's much more to it than the ick and the ouch. For every ounce of pain that comes along with childbirth, there is a pound of exhilaration. Becoming a parent is hard-earned, like really, really hard-earned. But perhaps it takes such effort and results in such change as a way to reveal to us just how capable we are and how malleable we need to be. It's in this awkward and messy place that I first experienced a love so real that I could almost touch it. It's where I discovered a love so strong that it hurt in a beautiful way. The tiny fingers wrapped around my own, the swaddled baby whose entire body could fit nestled on my chest. I wouldn't trade the pain I endured, the clothing I stained, or the pelvic floor I basically destroyed for any of it. My thinking is this: the more you expect the mess, the more you can savor the wonder. And with that, we have reached the end of chapter 2. Whether you are pregnant for the first time, or a new parent, or just watching this so that you can share it with someone in your life who needs it, I'm so thankful that you're here. Yes, I am brutally honest, and yes, I am sharing a lot of very personal truths here, but it is because it's all normal and it's all important to know. Thank you so much for being here for chapter 2, and I hope to see you very, very soon for chapter 3.